right, friends, it is game week here as we get ready for the college football playoff. 3 teams from the Big Ten getting set to get after it here as we welcome you to another edition of Bleav in Big Ten. Alongside Tom Hannifan from the State of State, a Penn State football podcast. I am Rhett Lewis, excited to be here with you and extremely excited to welcome our esteemed guest on this episode. It's kind of behind enemy lines for me, but a Notre Dame great, a college football Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion and NFL MVP, the great Joe Theismann is with us today. Joe, man, what a pleasure to get a chance to chat with you ahead of this great in-state CFP game. Your alma mater, my alma mater. Let's get after it. What do you say?
Who would have thought, Rhett? Who would have thought? I figured you just were going to introduce me because of your ties to Indiana.
No.
Oh, here's Joe Theismann. Let's talk to him, okay?
Hey, your reputation and your resume is deserving of all of that legendary status. So it is a pleasure to talk to you. Although, Joe, I have heard from many that we might be talking about a Crimson invasion into South Bend, into Notre Dame Stadium. Are you guys prepared for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about opposing teams coming in and trying to dominate it, but this is such a big event. I mean, everybody and anybody that has been a part of Notre Dame, that wants to be a part of Notre Dame, that is a part of Notre Dame, is going to be in those stands. So the big red machines now become the little red wagon.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Hey, Tom, I want, maybe you could help me with this too. But Joe, I was wondering if you could confirm that touchdown Jesus going like this is actually just touchdown Jesus after going IU like this. Is that, can you confirm that is in fact what's going on?
I believe the mural had shoulder problems, so it never really got up to the eye.
Yeah.
It's remained right where it is. And now that was always, I have to tell you, before they redid the stadium and added all those seats, you could see the upper part of our library, which is where the mural is of Christ on the cross.
Yeah.
So what happens is I always imagined being an opposing quarterback. There you are. Right. You're on your own 5-yard line, and the Notre Dame defense is out in front of you. And you look up, and there's touchdown Jesus. And the first thing I'm thinking is, it isn't bad enough I got to face those 11, but now you're bringing in somebody else. And now we got to deal with divine intervention. And I thought, I never wanted to be in that position. But there's times that I lined up there, I looked up, and I almost chuckled to myself. I thought, I'm glad this isn't somebody in a different uniform.
Yeah, no pressure whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Joe, from your experience over the last few weeks, ever since this game was announced, there's been a lot of shade thrown at Notre Dame fans especially, and there's been a lot of conversation about which home team has the best home field advantage. I have an idea of which one that might be, but Notre Dame, a lot of people would say, it's like, it's not that scary of an environment. Do you think we're going to see a different response from this Notre Dame fan base?
Oh yeah, I don't agree with those comments at all. I think it is a scary environment. I mean, it would be like playing anybody on the road. I mean, think of it this way: if we don't think it's a scary environment, we played at Texas A&M. We played 100,000 plus, and our fans are going to make it really, really tough. And that's what's so special. Man, there's never been anything like this. Yeah, this is the first time for us. I know it's the first time for Indiana, I'm sure. And it's these are moments that you remember all the time. And we're facing an Indiana football team that I don't think got the respect it deserved during the course of the year. Curt did a terrific job with them. And I really, I think it's going to be one of those games where it's going to boil down to what happens with those guys up front. It always does. Certainly we've got Love and Price. We got great runners, and Riley has done a great job. And your quarterback has thrown the ball at 27 touchdown passes. They throw it all over the place. It should be an exciting football game. It's going to be one where who does what they do the best. Yeah, probably is going to wind up on top, and we just don't want Indiana to throw the football, and we want to control the game like we have. And like I said, our defense is, I don't know where it's ranked, but it's got to be somewhere in the top 5 in the nation. I mean, it's just from linemen to linebackers to secondary people, and what's interesting about it is there's not a lot of seniors. Right. You got juniors, got some freshmen. Our offensive line's very young, was rebuilt from the beginning of the year, and I think these 3 weeks off will really make a difference, especially for us. I'm not sure what Indiana's state was as far as injuries go, but this is going to help us.
Yeah, look, I know you're getting Howard Cross.
Notice back. I said us.
That's all right. Hey, look, that's this kind of show here. You certainly should support your squad. But yeah, the injury thing is a big deal. Getting Howard Cross the third back, and there's certainly a lot of guys with NFL bloodlines playing for that Notre Dame defense. You got Roman Oben's son. You got Kurt Heinrich's little brother, all rotating through there. It's a fun unit. Yeah.
Again, we started out okay and then sort of been looking. So the 3 weeks hopefully will help.
Yeah, no question. I did want to talk to you a little bit about the quarterbacks. I got the chance to spend some time with Riley Leonard the last couple of years down at the Manning Passing Academy, Joe. And I've said this a couple of times this week, man, I love the way this guy plays. I love the joy and the passion he has for the game. I feel like he plays the game the right way, Joe. Now, look, he's certainly been a valuable runner with the football this year. I don't know that we've seen the same, prolific passing attack kind of production that Indiana can boast on the other side with Curtis Rourke at the quarterback spot. But how do you see Riley Leonard's place in a potential Notre Dame victory if they are to come out on top?
Well, first of all, Riley threw the ball a lot at Duke. He threw it very well. And then oddly enough, when Notre Dame played Duke last year, Riley got hurt.
Yeah.
He missed all of spring. He missed all of the preseason work because he just wasn't able to throw, which set Mike Denbrock back, I believe, a little bit when it came to the preparation of, it's one thing to sit in a classroom. And I tell people all the time, I can read a book on tennis. I can read every book on tennis. And then I'm going to go play Rafael Nadal. And how do you think I'm going to do it? Okay. So, and Riley basically was in that situation. Now, through the course of all these games, playing 12 football games, plus getting the 3 weeks off, he's had much more of an opportunity to be able to get back throwing the ball comfortably. I do believe that Notre Dame is going to have to throw the football. You just can't line up and nothing would please anybody more than to see Riley score. He's got 14 rushing touchdowns, 16 passing touchdowns, and to see Love and Price take off and do what they do so well. I do believe that, even as you move to the next round, being able to throw the football is very important. But I really, really feel like he's come a long way as the year has gone on. Like I said, because he wasn't really in Mike's offense. But Mike didn't really know what he had as far as a quarterback goes. And believe me, one of the most important communications and relationships on a football team is that of the coordinator and the quarterback. And I say this for one simple reason. It's one thing to know what you want the coach to do. It's another thing to know why he called the play. Does he want us to pick up a first down? Does he want me to take a shot? Are we going to go for it on fourth down? Now they have communicators and they can talk to one another, which I'm glad they didn't, because Coach Gibbs and I would probably be arguing all the time if I had a communicator in my helmet.
Joe, looking at this coaching battle, polar opposites, really. Curt Cignetti is loud, Google me, brash. This is Indiana football, kind of crashing the party in a lot of ways. And this is not necessarily old hat for Notre Dame within the last 5 years necessarily, but this is getting back to a place that Notre Dame fans feel they deserve to be. And Marcus Freeman has been criticized quite a bit, but the extension that he got was certainly in the endorsement from the program that I think was earned. And it seems like this is a great opportunity for him to prove a lot of doubters wrong. But the thing I see between both Cignetti and Freeman is just two extremely competitive guys. And the way that you talked about how there's a lot of underclassmen for this Notre Dame team that are making contributions, it speaks to how Freeman is recruiting. What do you like about this coaching matchup going into this playoff game?
Well, I like, one's basically offense, the other's basically defense.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it. And teams quite often reflect the personality of their head coach. And you look at Indiana. I mean, Rook's got 27 touchdown passes, protects the ball very, very well. That's why I think, pressure is going to be so key for Notre Dame's defense, is to be able to make him uncomfortable, make him put the ball in places where he doesn't want to go. We have run the football extremely effectively, and we played great defense. I remember playing for George Allen, and his theory was very simple. If you play great run defense and you run the football, your chances of winning go up considerably. And that's what we have basically done. But I love the culture that Marcus has created. He and his staff both. I think, you've got all the pieces together. And it started to show over these last couple of years. And we've done it with 3 different quarterbacks coming out of the portal. I was not a fan of the portal. I will put that on the record. Now, what we've had over the last 3 years, I'm somewhat of a fan of the portal. I still think the portal, unfortunately, doesn't allow quarterbacks to develop.
Yeah.
And it basically gives guys a shot out instead of competing. You basically have pulled the rug out from under competition and just said, well, I'm not playing here. I'm going to go someplace else. I'm not a big fan of that. But I think both of them have established a personality at their institutions. We're certainly proud of what Marcus has done. And I really feel like, getting the extension for him is a great thing because now there's stability. And that's what you look for anywhere. Well, if you want to see instability, just look at the Chicago Bears.
It's a great point. Coming off that Monday night game, man, it's been a rough go, certainly for that squad. So, I do like the way that you talk about the head coaches, because I think the one thing that rings true in college football these days is authenticity from the top. And you can say what you want about the ego and the brashness of Curt Cignetti, but he is authentically and holistically himself. True. And he does not try to be anybody else, and he does not apologize for it. I think the same could be said for Marcus Freeman. I mean, I remember listening to Riley Leonard talk about the way that he leads, giving examples of when he was being recruited out of the portal and he had sent Marcus Freeman a 2-hour podcast that Tom Brady had done just because it meant something to him. And then like 3 hours later, Freeman's texted him like he had already gone back and watched and listened to the whole thing, and they were having a conversation about it. I think
Marcus is wonderfully thorough about
connection.
What he does. He connects with the guys. And all you need to do to understand Marcus's feelings for this football team, obviously, but the team for him is when it was announced after Brian Kelly said he was going to LSU, Marcus Freeman was announced in the locker room with the players. Yeah. Look at that video. The guys went nuts. They were jumping up and down and screaming and yelling and cheering, and they were excited to play for this man. They were excited to play for Coach Freeman. And that, to me, speaks volumes when you really, really think about what kind of an effect a coach can have on players. Now, people would say, well, this guy's a player's coach, that guy's a player's coach. That is one of the most misunderstood statements that is made. It means that people perceive it as, well, he lets the players do what they want. He doesn't challenge them. That's not the case at all. Now, we haven't seen Marcus get upset very often on the sidelines, but he is very capable of making his point to the officials when things don't go the way they're supposed to. But he's a player's coach because he understands them. Yeah. I think, age-wise, this is going to be, just to get off track here just a little bit and jump into the ACC, it's going to be interesting to see how Bill Belichick, who's a dear friend, is going to relate to these young players in college. And who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's not sure what they want to do. Marcus has been able to establish a recruiting program, a teaching program. And first of all, we are student athletes at the University of Notre Dame. I don't think, now with the amount of money that universities are throwing around, you wonder if that student athlete application applies as opposed to just professional athletic player.
I agree with that point. Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools where it is.
Well, Tennessee.
Play ball.
Tennessee's raising their ticket prices to be able to compete. Yeah. And now, I remember not too long ago, they wanted to keep the alumni out of the university, paying athletes.
Right.
And then they allowed them in. And now it's the university. So I guess my question when it comes to this is at what point do the rich get richer? I can pay you more to come to me. You stay here. I think
it's happening.
Well, it is. And I think the NCAA really needs to get their arms around this thing in a hurry. I see there's some testimony on the Hill today about gambling, but even just the portal and the NILs themselves haven't really been defined, I think, where it's beneficial to both the universities as well as the student athletes.
Joe, to that point, Notre Dame, I would call a blue blood program, and we're in this era of NIL. I mean, hell, nobody was calling Indiana a football school until this year. And look at SMU is back in contention, and for the first time in decades, Boise State, Arizona State, these teams that are not blue blood programs. Do you think it's possible for these teams that are those blue bloods to even remotely rest on those laurels anymore?
Well, look at Dabo.
Yeah.
Dabo, if you're looking for an example, he basically said, I'm not doing it. Yeah. I'm just not going to participate. Maybe he has a little bit, but not the way and the extent that we've seen other people participate. And so it can be done. I think you have to have the right kind of people. You need the right kind of culture. And, we've got people staying in college 7 years now playing. Yeah. I mean, I was on a 4-year program. I couldn't play my freshman year. I played 3 years of college football. Wound up starting for 2 and 3 games or so, but it's a different landscape now. And I think that the rules have to reflect it. It's one thing, for example, the playoff system. Do I think it's absolutely right? No. Is it a place to start? Yes. Why should a team that has maybe, you play a tough schedule and you're 11-1 or whatever, Oregon's 12-0. Why should you be penalized and give it to conference champions as far as buys go?
Agreed.
I mean, so I think that's one thing that they really need to sit down and look at and say, okay, how do we tweak this thing? And like I said, this is a pretty darn good start.
Yeah.
Especially because Notre Dame's in. But but it is, I think it's a really good place to start to be able to work from. There was no magic formula right away, but we got a place to work from.
I think it's fun to see parity. I think it's fun to see new teams with an opportunity to go win
SMU,
a title.
Arizona State.
It's awesome.
Shoot,
awesome.
Why not?
And then thinking about this game again with Indiana and Notre Dame, I go back to the last time we saw Notre Dame, right, in that matchup against USC, and that was, it's a back and forth game really until the pick sixes, right, the 99-yard pick six, the 100-yard pick six within like 3 minutes of each other. It felt like that really broke the thing open, but it did feel like, that man defense that we see quite often from Marcus Freeman's group and that single high, secondary kind of coverage looks, they got tested quite a bit against USC's passing attack.
What's Al going to do?
Yeah. How do you think that kind of factors in here against this Indiana pass attack?
I think Indiana throws the ball very well. And I think it's going to, like I said, if you don't have time to throw, it's difficult to get to the ball to the people you want. And the one thing that jumped out at me in the USC game was basically is we couldn't put pressure on their quarterback. He was allowed to get the ball down the field. There were some size mismatches as well. So, obviously, we watched it as fans. Coaches have delved into this thing and dissected it 1,000 ways to Sunday. And you say to yourself, okay, what gives us the best matchups up front with our linebackers and in the secondary? I mean, you see all of the movements and all the things that are done at the professional level. And that's tough at the college level because you have such a limited time to work with the players. Yeah. I think it's 20 hours a week you get to coach them. That's a day and a half for us at the pro level. That's all that is. And so you count on athleticism, and hopefully our guys will be a little bit more athletic.
Joe, if you were potentially crafting a defensive game plan for Indiana to stop this Notre Dame offense, what would it look like?
Geez, I don't want to give away secrets.
Stop the run. Is it that simple as that?
You load up the box?
Question from Rhett. I didn't expect it from you.
Well, I'm going to help him out so he's not such a homer.
I think pressure is a key. I think making him a little bit uncomfortable. Coaches would always say, stop one element of the game. Yeah. I just don't see Indiana coming into this football game and saying, all right, they want to shut down our passing attack. They're going to play zone behind it instead of man-to-man. We're just going to run the football. I don't think that's Curt's personality, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a question of the first quarter of this game will tell some tales as far as what direction both coaches want to go. How Al wants to handle the defense, how Mike wants to handle the offense for Notre Dame and vice versa in Indiana. It's a chess match, really. And based on what we've seen from these schools through the entire season, you want to not abandon the basics that have got you there, but you have to do something different. You have to create splash plays. You just, I don't think Notre Dame can just line up and run the football. I certainly hope we can, because counting Riley, over 700 yards, and then you look at Price and Love, you're talking about two horses. And like I say, our offensive line has grown together. Yeah. They were really, really raw and young. I mean, we've got, an All-American, at one position at the tackle position. So, I don't know. I'm curious like you, I guess. I'm curious a little bit to say, okay, how are each of these coaches going to attack each side of the ball?
And then just the last one on this game, Joe, but for Riley Leonard, I talked about what I appreciate about him. Have you gotten a chance to know him very well?
I have spent some time with him. Really like him a lot. He's a sponge. It's really neat about him is he really wants to learn. And it's great that he goes to the Manning passing camps. Yeah. I mean, Peyton and Eli and everybody, Archie, Cooper, the entire Manning clan does a great job in preparing these guys. And I've had a chance to mentor different individuals through time. And some guys are willing to sit and listen and you absorb it like sponges. Others are like, okay, fine. I'm pretty darn good. I'll maybe listen to you. Yeah. And Riley's not one of those guys. Riley's one of those guys that wants to be good. He wants to be great. He wants to lead this football team. Winning matters to him. Now, you can define winning in a lot of different ways. One way is to continue to learn every day. My favorite saying of all sayings that are out there is the day you stop learning is the day you stop living. You know, and I had this conversation with Tom Brady too. You know, Tom and I used to talk about that as well. Peyton as well.
Wow.
Just, you know, what can I learn today? What do I do today? Our game has got so much intricacy to it that you have to be able to find that thing that you can continue to do to make you better, both mentally, physically, and even as well psychologically. You know, how do you deal with some of the stuff, the pain?
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, I'm excited. I'm really excited about what this football team can do.
And last one here, Joe, because you know, I'm excited to go visit Notre Dame for the first time.
They're early.
It's a bucket list for me. And I understand you got to knock one off your bucket list last week at the Army-Navy game. Is that right?
I did. I'm a big military guy. I believe in our military. I thank anybody watching this that's in the military. Thank you. You know, one of the misconceptions I feel about the world of athletics is people call us heroes, and it's appreciated.
Sure.
But we're just men and women that God gave a gift to.
Right.
Those men and women that put that uniform on, that go out there and defend our country, and the young cadets and midshipmen at the academies, the future leaders of this country, they're real heroes because they sacrificed their families, they sacrificed their lives for us to have the one that we have. And so it was such a great honor. Robert Griffin and I, the third, I'll make sure I get it correct.
Yeah, there you go.
As a matter of fact, he was the first one to go with Roman numerals, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but Robert and I had the opportunity to give away retrofitted vehicles, recycled vehicles, to someone from the Army and one from the Navy. Robert's family is Army, and my interestingly enough, because there was only two, I did the Navy one.
Nice.
But we gave it to very deserving people who needed wheels. Wow. But boy, I was down on the field for the walk-in. Holy mackerel. And the game, you know, the game is a game. Okay. Yeah. Navy beat Army. Okay, fine. But the pageantry that is there, the enthusiasm, the energy, the excitement that you feel in that stadium, unbelievable before it.
Oh, it's awesome. I once had a chance to broadcast an Army game and talk to Jeff Monken beforehand, and the reverence that he holds for his players and what they've done and what they do is so incredible. Talks about them being those who stand in the gap between our freedom and those who wish to take it. And it still gives me goosebumps thinking about all that. But Joe, we sure do appreciate you giving us some of your time, man. What a blast here to get to learn from you a little bit and hear your fondness for your alma mater. And I look forward to seeing you down on the field pregame, bud.
Rhett, I know you have the same fondness. Todd, what's your, you know,
Tom's a Stater.
The two of us have chosen a side, Tom.
Yes. So I went to Penn State, and as I was saying before, I think the best home field advantage in the first round is Happy Valley. It's a whiteout. It's going to be like 15 degrees out. I think SMU is in for a rude awakening.
We're going to have a whiteout in South Bend too, I'm afraid. But ours isn't going to be t-shirts.
Yeah.
Ours is going to be Mother Nature's idea of a whiteout.
I can't wait to see the snow.
I'm hoping it's just, you know, just keep it right around the 20-ish area, and I'll be okay with it. So
it'll be fine.
But I'm excited. Thanks, guys, for having me. I really appreciate it. Should be great. Should be great football this weekend.
No doubt. Fired up for it, for sure. Thanks again, Joe. Really appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.